Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Neserine Obeid, and today I will be discussing my investigative assessment, which is the investigative assessment for population growth analysis. It's designed to foster real-world mathematical skills and practical problem-solving abilities, and I am proposing it for a Year 11 Advanced Mathematics class. Now, to begin, we'll start with the task overview. So the investigative task that I'm proposing revolves around population growth analysis. Students will first have to choose a electoral division or some type of population area. They'll have to gather historical population data. They'll then have to apply calculus to analyze rates of change and create mathematical models to justify their findings. So the task, I'm proposing that it spans over several weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, to ensure that the students gain a deep understanding of the concepts that are involved. But of course, this can be altered to suit what we feel that the students need, and obviously expand from there. Moving on now to the skill development. Throughout this task, the students will develop a number of essential skills. They'll learn to collect and analyze data from reliable sources, which is an ability and skill that they can apply throughout their lives. They'll also learn how to understand rates of change, which is a foundational concept in many fields, which also relates to the mathematical modeling. And most importantly, they'll gain the capacity to present and communicate the data that they find effectively. They'll have to justify their findings using the appropriate mathematical language. And one of the most significant advantages of this specific task is that it aligns with a number of cross-curricular outcomes. It actually offers students an opportunity to engage with classroom content in a real-world context. And there have been a number of research and studies which show that cross-curricular learning actually significantly enhances student engagement and makes the learning experience much more enriching for the students and much more relevant, which can only increase engagement as well. So now we'll move on to the diagnostic activity. Of course, because it is an investigative task and it spans over a number of weeks, we need the students to be able to already have most of the skills that they'll need to implement in this task. So I'm proposing a quiz which covers all the important aspects of the investigative task, approximately 1 hour held during class, and that way the teacher will be able to provide very valuable feedback and support to ensure that all the students are equipped for success when the time for the investigative task comes around. So I'm proposing not a very long gap between doing the diagnostic activity and following on with the investigative task. We want to keep them nice and close together. All right, so the mathematical modeling. Students will have the opportunity to explore various mathematical models, such as linear or exponential, to show that their growth rate happens either linearly or exponentially, depending on the trends and data that they collect. And then they'll need to, of course, justify their choice based on their analysis, because these models actually allow the students to make the predictions which they will use for their predictive models, which is another skill that is very relevant, of course. Now onto the predictive modeling. Now before they do the predictive modeling, they'll have to analyze the data that they're presenting in their initial mathematical models. And that will be all about recognizing trends and patterns. So through that, the students will learn to think critically, draw meaningful conclusions, and reflect on the accuracy and limitations of their mathematical model. And that, of course, is a skill that is crucial in making informed decisions in any field, whether it be during school or even later on after school during their careers. Now, the predictive modeling is really the center of the task. It's what everything is kind of working towards. So students will understand the process and its real-world applications, because they'll have to calculate rates of change using calculus and present equations and calculations to predict future population trends. So obviously they'll have to justify their choice of model using equations and calculations, which of course is another academically valuable skill, and they'll also be able to use that to make informed decisions in their own lives throughout time. Now moving on to how are we assessing this specific task, I'm proposing a very comprehensive rubric which I have generated, and it covers various aspects including data collection, mathematical modeling, rates of change, predictive modeling, data analysis, and overall report coherence. So this structured approach ensures that the students are all evaluated fairly and objectively, placing an emphasis specifically on the proposed skills that they develop throughout and prior to this investigative task. On to extension. So what is the purpose of this task? How can it be extended on? I believe that this task actually can serve as a foundation. As a foundation for students to explore related projects and obviously extend their understanding of real world mathematics. So many times we come across students who say, what is the point of this? What are we doing this for? Why are we even learning this? This is their opportunity to see that the maths that we do in school at even a high school level can be applied to real world applications, and that will extend into their careers if they choose to follow careers that utilize these foundational skills. The skills that they acquire, they're not confined to the classroom. They have practical applications and they will be possibly applied in future endeavors. So this specific task will actually equip them to tackle challenges they might encounter in both their academic and professional journeys. And last but not least, obviously, in conclusion, this investigative assessment for population growth analysis, I believe it holds great promise in enriching our maths curriculum and equipping our students with valuable skills for life. So thank you for your attention and consideration. I do have some references here if anyone is interested, including the study for cross-curricular education. So thank you so much for listening.